Well, I want to welcome you here today again for another one of my stroke stories. And this has been so exciting to be able to share with you different people's experiences as they have suffered a stroke and what it's meant to them in their life, how they have been managing things that they're going through. These are real lives, and it's wonderful just to be able to share them from the heart. So today we want to welcome Karen Matteo. Welcome, Karen.
Why, hello. Thank you for having me.
You betcha. Yeah, it's still winter here as we're recording, and so I know we have snow, and you're in Pennsylvania. You got some snow out there?
Yes, we do. Yes, not enough for December, though. I think we should have a little more Christmas.
Okay, all right. I did see on Facebook that you had some cute little gnomes at your door now.
Yes, I have a precious friend who came over to help me. I'm very lucky that way. I have a lot of precious people in my life.
Oh, I'm so glad. And those gnomes are just darling. So if anybody wants to have a look at some really cute gnomes, head over to Karen's Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as I said before, you're from Pennsylvania. Have you lived there all your life?
Yes.
All right. Very good. And obviously we're on the My Stroke Story show. So you have suffered a stroke, and when was that?
It was in March of 2018. So I'm just past a year and a half.
Oh, still seems very new, I bet.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Oh, so can you take us back to, what was happening in your life around that time and during that day?
Well, interesting enough, it was during Lent. And every Friday night, my husband and I would meet with some friends at one of the local fire halls for the fish fry.
All right.
So it was Friday night, and we had gone, to the fish fry with some friends, and I felt perfectly fine, ate my fish and fries and came home. And my husband, we had a finished basement. My husband went down in the basement to watch something on television. Mm-hmm. And I was laying on the couch reading a book. I mean, just laying there reading a book. Yeah. I had an old cat, an 18-year-old cat who was laying on top of me, and I didn't want to disturb her. Mm. So as I was reading my book, I was thinking, I should go upstairs and get a bath because I'm very much a bathtub person.
Yes.
But I didn't want to disturb my cat. So I thought, well, I'll wait until she wakes up and then I'll go.
Okay.
So again, I'm reading my book and I'm not having any problems. I'm not having any blurred vision, no headache. I'm perfectly fine. I had, however, had a couple episodes that week, maybe for 2 weeks, of kind of my heart feeling like it was doing flip-flops.
Oh.
Enough. I mean, I had that all along. That wasn't something new, but it seemed to be increasing in the past 2 weeks. So I checked my heart rate. I had an app on my phone, mm-hmm. and it was pretty fast. So I thought, well, maybe I better just go get my bath and go to bed. Mm. So when I sat up on the couch, I thought, gee, my arm feels like it's asleep. Mm. But I hadn't been laying on it. There was no reason for that. So I tried to get up, and then I was like, I can't get up. I like slid right on the floor. I had no idea. I had no clue, really. Like, I just was shocked. Yeah. So I picked up my phone, which was on the coffee table, and I texted my husband, who was downstairs, asking him if he could please come up. Mm. Now, truthfully, my husband rarely had his phone with him. Oh. And when he goes down to watch TV, he typically falls asleep in the recliner. Right. So I thought, I don't know how this is going to work out. Mm. But he immediately came up the stairs, and I said, I can't get up. And he said that the minute he looked at me, he knew I had a stroke because, my face was drooped on one side and my speech was slurred. So he said, okay, Karen, I'm going to call an ambulance. I think you've had a stroke. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. I don't, just wait a second. It'll be okay. And he said, no, I'm sorry, hon. I'm going to call. And I said, well, help me get up off the floor first. He said, no, I'm going to call first.
Yeah.
So he called. Now, I lived really out in the middle of the mountains.
Really?
You know, ambulances didn't have much of a record to get there in time, but I kid you not, they were there in 7 minutes.
Whoa.
It was incredible. So, you know, after he called, he kind of pulled me up onto the couch, not easily, can I say.
Oh.
And then the ambulance came in and they loaded me up. And the whole time I'm thinking, how can this be?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wasn't overweight. I was not diabetic. I don't have high blood pressure or high cholesterol. I just thought, this is just, I mean, I was just incredulous. This is too weird for me. Surely, you know, they'll take me to the hospital and it'll pass and my husband will come home.
Yeah.
But then as they were, you know, there was a nurse in the ambulance with me, and as she's doing all this testing on me, I'm thinking, no, this definitely is a stroke. And I was really frightened about what that meant for me. But honestly, as strange as it feels, I wasn't really afraid of dying. I was just so puzzled by how it all happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing that takes people by surprise is there's like no pain, usually unless you've been having a headache or that kind of thing. But a lot of people, like, there's no pain. It's just that, you know, you've lost control, you know?
Yeah. Not at all what I would have expected. You know, I would have expected a sign of some sort. But all I could think was, thank heaven I didn't do that in the middle of the fire hall with hundreds of people there, or upstairs in my bathtub where I would not have had my phone. I'd have probably just drowned up there.
Oh, dear. We won't have to think about that, thank goodness. Oh, dear. So you got to the hospital and got some treatment?
I did. You know, they took me to kind of a rural hospital, which surprised me. But the ambulance people said, well, it's actually a stroke center.
Okay.
So when I got to this little hospital, they were waiting for me, like the nurses, the doctor. I was in a CT or an MRI. I don't even know which one it was at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, like in 3 minutes.
Wow.
So they did all that, and they're just, you know, doing all this stuff so quickly.
Yeah.
And by the time my husband got there, they were video conferencing with a doctor from Pittsburgh on the TPA. Okay. So my husband got there just in time to hear him, and they, you know, they give you all the stuff about, well, it could go bad if you've had a hemorrhagic stroke, or, you know, could help you if you had an ischemic stroke, and we think you've had the ischemic stroke. Right. So we're just like, oh, just give it to me because it can't get much worse than this. So they did give me the shot, and honestly, I didn't think it got much better. Although they did tell me that, you know, it could have kept it from progressing much worse. So I guess there's a blessing there.
That's true. Yeah. Wow. Just for people that maybe are listening and don't understand ischemic and hemorrhagic. Ischemic is when you've got a blood clot in a vessel, and then you've got a clog, basically, and blood's not getting in, and that causes brain cell death. And the hemorrhagic is when a vessel actually bursts. So you've got blood going into the brain area, the brain cells, and then that causes death as well. So there'd be two different kinds of ways of treating that. You know, one has to alleviate the pressure of the bleed, and the other will want to alleviate the pressure that's been caused by the clot, you know, the blockage. So that's why we're talking about this. So yeah, it's important to know which one, but you had the shot, and it was ischemic, but it didn't reverse maybe anything that you were having at the time, but it didn't get worse.
Right.
Wow. So there you were, and you stayed over, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, no, actually that night after that video conference with the doctor, they took me to another hospital, a bigger hospital. Okay. And I was in ICU for a couple of days. Wow. They did a lot of tests there. They did, you know, one of those transesophageal things to see if I had a hole in my heart.
Yeah.
And I had one, but it was very tiny. They didn't think that could possibly be the cause.
Mm.
So they were, some strokes they just don't have a reason for. And that's what they were classifying mine at that time, although I kept insisting that there had to be a connection to my heart.
Yeah. 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 Well, that flipping around in your inside, that beat wasn't right, was it? And you knew that. Yeah.
Right. And that came out later. I wore a 30-day monitor, and they did see an episode of AFib. So
Yeah. So when you were having flutters before, had you seen a doctor for it? You've never been diagnosed with AFib before?
no, I had. I mean, seen doctors, and I'd had echoes and treadmill tests, but AFib, it can be very sporadic. So unless you
Exactly.
happen to have a monitor on when you're having it, they don't see it.
Yeah.
Even on this 30-day monitor, I don't think it showed up to like day 28.
Wow. Yeah.
So 24-hour Holter monitor doesn't always show it.
Well, that's really a kind of a good word for people too, I think, that are having these issues. Talk to your doctor about the monitor and maybe wearing it for a longer period of time, because you know how you feel, right? You know what's going on inside your body, and
right.
You know when things aren't right. So I'm sorry that wasn't picked up before. And I think too, for those that have AFib, which is what it's called, the heart doesn't beat, the contractions in the heart aren't right, and they're not pumping the blood through, so then clots can form. So it's important, if you do have that and you are medicated in any way for that, to keep up with that, right? Because look, AFib can pose a problem and a risk.
Absolutely.
For stroke. So how long were you at this hospital then?
Well, I was only at that hospital for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then they transferred me to a rehab center in another hospital.
Yeah.
And I was there for maybe a month. Now, that was an excellent hospital, and it was intensive rehab. So I had PT, OT, and speech therapy.
Wow.
Twice a day, each one. So
wow.
it was great. Like, they got me on my feet. I had to wear a knee ankle arthrosis, so it was a huge brace on my leg.
Oh, yeah.
But I could walk with it with the cane. I was thrilled with that.
Yeah, for sure. So when you went home, did you have that KAFO, is what it's called?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Okay.
I did.
And do you still have it today?
No. I mean, I think I got home like the end of April, and I got that cut down to an AFO the end of June or the beginning of July.
Great. And how's your walking today? Do you walk with a cane or something?
I do. I still wear that AFO. I've tried several times to get off of it.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I did pretty well initially.
Right.
But then my knee started to hyperextend. So, it got pretty painful. And plus, I have arthritis in both my knees. So, my knees were becoming a real problem for me.
Definitely.
So I just wear the AFO now, which I'm not happy about. But I'm believing that, with ongoing therapy, which I'm still doing some now again.
Wonderful.
That leg, yes, I'm doing water therapy now, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
That's great. That is so good. Have you had any falls in the last month or so?
I had a fall about a month. I've only had 2 falls altogether. But I had one about a month ago. My husband, we had to move out of that house. It was way too big, and I couldn't manage it.
Okay.
So we moved into a ranch house that's only 1 floor,
right?
But it had big steps out front. So my husband redid the steps, and I was so proud that I could get in and out of the house by myself.
Wonderful.
But one day I was coming in the front door, and my toe caught on the threshold. So, and my other, I only have one usable hand, and it had the cane, so I didn't have any way to catch myself. And down I went on those knees, I'm telling you.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
Yeah, so I thought, that's not going to be good. But honestly, I barely even bruised. I thought, how can it be with all the blood thinner I'm on that I didn't even bruise? But,
Wow.
so
Well, I'm
once I
glad you're
figured out
okay.
how to get up off the floor, I was in pretty good shape.
Well, that's good. I'm so glad to hear that. Wow. So today, it's been a year and a half. You're still working on the therapy, which is good. Um, what's your typical day or week look like? I mean, how has your stroke affected your daily life?
Well, it's certainly nothing like what my life was pre-strokes. I can drive, but my husband's very protective of me and
Yeah.
typically takes me everywhere because even though I can drive, I can't get in and out of the car real easily.
Okay.
And I can't walk far, so there's really no
Right.
place for me to go,
Right.
that I
Right.
can manage.
Uh-huh.
But I
Yeah.
get up in the morning and I do some reading first.
Yeah.
And then I try to plan something for the day, something that I'm going to accomplish.
Hmm. Oh,
2
good.
days a week I go to water therapy. I
Yeah.
try to do my exercises at home, but in all honesty, I'm terribly forgetful. So sometimes at the end of the day, I'll think, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even do those arm exercises." I need to get a big whiteboard and put it up
There you
someplace where I
go.
can see it.
That's great. Oh, very good. Now you have children, right? Grown children?
I have 2 daughters that are grown, right?
Grandkids?
I have 3 grandchildren. None of them live in my town. One
Oh,
daughter is an hour and a half away, and the other one is 2.5 hours away.
all
But none of
right.
those are insurmountable. They're wonderful at coming and calling, and you
Yeah.
know, they pretty much do whatever I need.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And how many grandkids?
3.
3. And what ages are they?
They're 13, 12, and 10.
Oh, that's a nice age group, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a little scary for them in the beginning when I first had the stroke.
Oh,
So I was very careful just to remind them that, my brain just had an injury, that, I'm not broken. I'm just a little
yeah.
bruised up, and that I can still do lots of things. Just I can't do everything I did before.
Oh, yeah, it's a big adjustment. I think that's something to consider. How do you explain these things to either your children if they're small or grandchildren, and help them to understand? And I wonder if they sometimes wonder if they can snuggle with you because they worry that you're not well or something.
Well, my youngest grandchild was a little standoffish, and I just grabbed onto him one day with my one good arm and pulled him
Yeah.
in. I said, "Honey, Mimi is not won't break. I'm pretty tough yet."
Oh.
So I think that it's important how you present yourself. I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. I didn't want them to think I was, this handicapped, disabled person, even though I am.
Oh.
I just didn't want them to see me that way.
Of
So
course, yeah. I suppose having a grandma that has had a stroke maybe makes them even more sensitive to those around them that have a disability or a handicap. Maybe they see things in a better way than some kids who don't have that
yeah, I
opportunity.
think it would have to.
Yeah, it's a big thing for them, isn't it? Absolutely. So what kinds of things are you looking forward to now? What do you don't just live day to day, do you? I mean, you've re-entered your life in a lot
I
of
have.
ways. Mhm.
I'm just looking forward to the day that I can do more. My hand is clearly not. It's not where I want it.
Yeah.
My leg is a little stronger. I can walk. With my AFO and a
Hmm.
cane, I can walk to make do.
Right.
I would like to be able to use my arm more. I would like to be able to fix my own hair. My
Yeah.
husband's been doing it for a
Yeah.
year and a half, and he does a pretty decent job, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I would just like to free him up a little.
Oh yeah. Sure, sure. Have you started back to a lot of the household tasks? I mean, what tasks are you able to do?
Well, I can do the laundry. I have a hamper on like a rolling hamper, and I can roll it down the hall to the laundry room, and I can get them in, and I can get them in the dryer.
Yeah.
And then, I can, folding them is a little bit of a challenge.
Okay.
But if I drag the basket back to my bedroom, I can fold them on my bed where I can lay them out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've got that down pretty pat, except for T-shirts. I'm terrible with T-shirts.
Oh,
I don't know why. They don't
cooperate,
hang
huh?
right. No, they don't hang right.
Oh. What about vacuuming? Is that still too hard with just the one hand and the AFO and all?
Well, I can
Pain?
vacuum. I can vacuum slow. Yeah. Well, I have 2 carpets that are pretty thick. Now,
Okay.
those I would have to take a lot of rest, but I can do them.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, I have some hardwood floors, and those are easy. I bought some things on Amazon. There's a long-handled like duster,
Okay.
so I can dust, and I can dust my floors and my baseboards.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
I
a good
can.
idea.
I can dust, and I can keep my floors clean.
Aw, that's good.
Now my bathrooms are a little harder, but
Oh, yeah, that would be tricky, wouldn't it? Yeah,
yeah, that's my
definitely.
husband. My husband has to do those.
When you were able to start back doing some household tasks, how did that feel?
It felt wonderful. It really did. I don't like being taken care of. I mean, I think probably nobody likes being taken care of. But my husband does so much for me. I just want to lighten his load a little bit. I want to do my share. I want to be a helper to him and not just a taker.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I can accomplish something, I'm thrilled. And that's why on these little stroke groups,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for ideas and suggestions of how people have mastered those things.
Yeah, that's really good. We'll have to kind of research that and maybe draw that out of people a little bit more, because people do find a way, don't they? Lots of times.
Yes,
in
they do.
pretty handy ways as well. Wow. What about the emotional part for you and your husband in all of this? And I don't know, I've never met you or your husband, but do you communicate well? And is communication really important between the caregiver and the stroke survivor in your situation?
Well, I think it absolutely is. I think that when I first had this stroke, my concern for my husband was probably paramount. I just kept saying to him, I'm sorry. And he would just say, Karen, you didn't do anything. It happened to you. It happened to us. We're two or one. So whatever happens to one affects the other, and it'll be okay. But I was so depressed, and especially in the months that they didn't know what caused it, I was very anxious because I didn't know how to keep it from happening again. So they did give me, I went on some medication, which helped me pretty quickly. And then after a while, because my husband goes to the doctor with me, we were in to see our PCP. And I said to her in front of him, I said, I think Tom needs this Zoloft too.
Oh.
And she talked to him a little bit. So she gave him a low dose. And I think he feels a little better too.
Oh.
I'm thinking it's just going to be short term. We're still, even though it's 18 months, it's still early on in the process.
It is.
So,
yeah.
I think you need to talk. Now, men are typically not good communicators.
No.
Speaking is was always one of my gifts.
Oh.
I had lots of words to use up in a day. And now I don't do that as much because it takes a lot of effort. But I try to get my husband to share his feelings. And I think, he's certainly disappointed in the things that we thought we would do. We're both retired. Our kids are grown. We didn't really have any health problems. We thought that we were going to, travel and do things. And I think he's kind of afraid for me to do that. But I told him I think we need to start venturing outside of our comfort zone. Yeah. He worries about me going into, restrooms any place where he's not with me.
Oh, of course. Yeah. What about a travel camper or something where you'd have a restroom with you? I don't know. That might be an idea, but you always
We used to have one. When the kids were little, we had one,
Mm-hmm.
and we sold it. So I don't know that he would be up for buying another one. But
Yeah, I know.
I told him, I said, I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe when you first start out, I don't know if one of your daughters would be free to go, or, her family travel together so that you'd have somebody in the bathroom with you. That's, an idea. Do a weekend out, a long weekend together, and do it as trial, see how it goes. Pennsylvania is a beautiful state, so there's plenty of places nearby. I wouldn't think you'd have to travel too far to see something.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, right.
Oh, that's really good. I think this is all very encouraging for our listeners today. We've touched upon that whole feeling again of what it's like when a stroke happens. And no wonder it's called stroke. It's just a real strike, isn't it? It's out of the blue for many people, no warning. And yeah, it's a one-way street, isn't it? It goes oftentimes for people that way. Other people, they can get to the hospital and get that medication, and it can help to reverse it, but everybody's different, and we have to accept that, don't we?
Yes, I really think that attitude plays almost a bigger role than your physical recovery, to be honest. I know that sounds silly, but I was always pretty much an in-control person, one of those type A people. And I think that's why I had a big problem accepting what had happened, because I wanted to blame it on somebody or something, and I wanted to fix it.
Yeah. And
so I came to understand, that we're not, we're just deceiving ourselves to think we were ever in control. Life happens, life happens, and terrible things happen to good people. And, like, how the Bible says, there will be trouble.
Yeah.
And you just think, well, if I'm good enough, maybe that won't happen. But that's just a lie. It happens. Yeah. And so, but your life isn't over just because, bad things happen. There's still more you can do, and more you can give, and more you can offer to other people.
Exactly.
And I think that helps me whenever I still find myself able to reach out to someone else. There's always someone in worse shape than we are.
Yeah, there is. And, no matter where we are in these things, I know I've gone through health issues myself that, you just don't want, and you wish you hadn't found yourself in those places. But my faith, and I know that you also have a faith in the Lord. And to me, that was everything, and it was, I can't do this alone. And I think if people find themselves in that place and realize that they need to reach out, they need to reach out for, well, the help they have around them. But I would actually say, it's God himself that was my ultimate help.
Well, I agree. I mean, I know that there, not everybody believes as I do, but for me, I especially in that ambulance, I remember thinking, okay, Lord, just take me. Okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So in his wisdom, I feel like he chose to leave me here.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, okay, well, if I'm alive, then I can do all I can do to help other people. And the day that comes that I'm not alive, then I'm with the Lord. And so it's a win-win, no matter how I look at it.
It is, actually. And when you can combine that with an attitude of real rest, on just acceptance, and I'm going to find the good thing today that I can. I'm going to try to look at this situation from a different angle, because that can make a big difference. Same situation, different angle, and makes a big difference. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. I think this has been absolutely wonderful. I have learned a lot about just the things that you went through, and the way you've been able to share your feelings, and the impact with your husband and where you are today. And, it's time to look forward. I love that. That it's time for you and your husband to think and maybe start dreaming a bit more about what you can be doing in the future, hopefully very near future, and ways that can happen. So thanks for sharing with us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks for joining us for this edition of My Stroke Story. It's a wonderful opportunity to hear the real life story of other stroke survivors. So if you've enjoyed this, I would invite you to also come and join us on the Stroke Movers. It's a Facebook group just alive with commentary about stroke and what it's meaning for other people, and most important, about functional exercise, because that's what we're serious about, is finding exercises that will actually meet our functional needs. I hope to see you on the Stroke Movers in the Facebook group.